Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of the IEEE Alumni Podcast. So, I am Karthikeya Joyce. I will be your host for today's episode. And I have with me Mr. Sanghamesh. So, Sanghamesh passed out from SJC in the 2018 batch in the branch of computer science. So, after passing out, he got a job in Western Digital, worked there for 1.5 years, and is now currently pursuing a master's in applied computing at the University of Toronto. So, welcome, Sanghamesh. Thank you so much for giving your time today.
Yeah, hello everyone, and thank you for having me on the podcast. And a belated happy Deepavali to all the listeners.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. So, was it always your goal to go into engineering itself?
Yeah, I would say that it was my goal since probably high school, around ninth or 10th grade, that I decided to go into engineering, and in particular, my liking for computer science increased ever since then, I would say. And yeah, it was always my goal that I wanted to end up in engineering and in computer science in particular. So yeah, that was probably always my goal since high school, I would say.
So, did you also have SJC in mind, or was this just something like you got a seat here and you just
Uh,
came?
I wouldn't say that it was always in mind. I did aim for other universities like IITs and NITs, but I couldn't secure a computer science seat there. So as I told, like computer science was the main thing I wanted to look for. So SJC obviously being the best Mysore has to offer, and I also got a seat there. So SJC worked out pretty well for me. I'm happy about that.
Okay, cool, cool. So, no regrets, I guess then.
No regrets. Yeah, no regrets.
Okay, then. So, going into your initial days of engineering, do you have any particular interests outside the syllabus that you would like to share?
I think outside the syllabus, it was pretty much, trying to learn things online. Those were the initial days. And uh, initial days, I would say, like, the first year, it's still, you're studying a variety of subjects, and it's difficult for you to, hammer in your interest, especially because computer science is just one of those subjects. I think your real journey starts once you enter the branch in like second year. And that time, I'm not sure who conducted that particular information session, but there was one person from HPE who came and told us about data science. And back then, I think data science was not a very popular topic yet. So that was when it started, to me, that I need to learn something apart from the syllabus. And I think that is when I started, taking courses on Coursera, EDX, and learning more about the data science field. So yeah, that was the beginning of it.
So, it's interesting that you say that you had a passion for data science in your second year itself.
Yeah.
So, most of us start to get into that and start getting exposed to this near our third and fourth year. So, it's interesting to see. So, you always have a plan to do masters then? Because you are now pursuing a master's in applied computing, right?
Yeah. So yeah, like right now I'm still doing a master's in data science concentration. And yeah, like I think I had a plan for masters ever since, the end of second year, I think. And it was something always on my mind. But as as everyone says, you need to have parallel paths, right? You cannot stick to just one path. So I did have my backup plans as to, if something doesn't work out well, if I don't get into a good university, then I wanted to work for a couple of years, then try again and get in. But yeah, like once I got a great offer from Western Digital, I think I hammered on the idea that I need to work for probably a year and a half, and then move on to masters later.
So it's funny that you say that because there are many people who are in the same dilemma, and
Right.
also there are people who say that in an interview you should not mention that you are going to do your masters, or that you have a plan of doing your masters.
Yeah.
So is this true? I mean, is this something I hear here and
Yeah.
there that
I mean, it's definitely true because even thinking in a logical sense, if you're telling a company that I'm going to go to masters within a year, then they're spending a lot of resources on you, right? Because you're a fresher, they are going to spend a lot of resources on you to train, to get you accustomed to their processes, to learn what their team is working on. So the initial 3 months, 4 months is basically your training and getting to fit in with the team. So they're spending a lot more time on you than a hire who is already experienced. So mentioning something like a master's during your interview, I think it's not very favorable to you.
Huh. I mean, there is one question though. You say that you should not mention your masters, and it makes sense. What you said makes sense. I mean, especially if they are investing so much time and energy into you, they don't want someone who is going to go off after 1.5, 2 years.
Right.
But I gotta say that it is usually a common question in the HR round that will you pursue your masters, right?
Yeah.
So how do you tackle this question? Do you outright lie?
As I said, like you're not lying if you have a couple of paths in your mind, because as I said, if you already have a great university at offer, and you're telling them that no, I don't have plans to go to masters, then you're lying. But when you haven't even applied to the university, because most of the placement happens 7 semester or so, so your results won't still be in till say February or so. So if you haven't applied to the university itself, there is no guarantee that you'll get in, right? So it's better to think that um, you're not getting one. Like, prepare for the worst case scenario, but then hope for the best case scenario.
So if I understand you correctly, it's try to show off the best case scenario which works for the company, at least in the interview.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what your best case and worst case scenario is. If your best case scenario is still, going abroad, and you get a good university, say before the company, onboards you, then I think it's very fair for you to tell them that, I got a offer from a particular, university, and I want to move out abroad. So it's okay. It's not like you're outright lying to the HR or anything.
Yeah, so it's good to have all your options on the table then. I mean, rather than zeroing in on one
Yeah,
particular thing,
surely,
if I
surely.
understand correctly. So also, I know many people have that dilemma. So it's like there are some people who really want to prepare for their masters, but on the other hand, they don't know for sure. Like you said, things are not always certain. So
Right.
they don't want to invest all their time into preparing for masters and then not being ready for placements.
Right.
So would you have any advice on how to tackle that and how to manage your time? Or
Sure.
would you just say that it's not wise to prepare for masters in your fourth year itself?
No, I would say it's still wise for you to prepare for both, because in my experience, at least, I feel that your placement is not as tiring if you have your basics right in the second and third year, because I feel the syllabus which we have, like data structures, algorithms, and others, those syllabuses are really good. And if you have been working well on those topics, then it shouldn't be much of a uphill climb for your placements itself. So giving a couple of months, excuse me, giving a couple of months to placements, and also like later on, once you get placed, you can start preparing for your GRE, or the other way around. It works both, I would say. So you can do both, in my opinion.
Okay. So it is possible to split your time between both of these things then.
Surely it is, and I would say that uh, don't split the time in the sense, like morning you're gonna do the morning before your interview. Obviously, you don't want to be studying for GRE or the other way around. So focus on one thing at a time. But definitely you can say a week you prepare for placements, the next week you can definitely prepare for GRE.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. So you also mentioned in second and third year you have important subjects like data structures and algorithms.
Right.
So about those subjects, did you actually refer to the syllabus that was taught in class itself, or did you go above and beyond that? And do you have to go above and beyond to be ready for placements?
Sure. I think that's a good question. And definitely, I think what the syllabus teaches us is great material, right? Because I think most of the topics are covered there. And I would say that is like the baseline which you need to cover before moving on to some other online resource. So, first cover all your bases like data structures, algorithms, say operating system, and then you can move on to online resources like say Geeks for Geeks, or I would say practicing is the best way to do, and Lead Code, Hacker Rank, these are the platforms that you need to keep on practicing, because most of these companies do have a initial coding round or a cutoff round where you will be given coding questions. So practice is what makes you good at it.
So, did you start practicing all these things in the second and third years itself, or was this
Not
a thing that you started just before placements?
Not really. Like second and third year, as I said, I was just more inclined towards just learning those subjects, and also in parallel, I was taking courses like but they were not data structures or algorithms related. They were more on the machine learning side of things. So these Geek for Geeks and Hacker Rank, these kinds of things, I think I started only say a couple of months before the placements, and it should be good enough for you if you know the basics well.
Okay. So for then, what from what I understand, it is beneficial then to pay attention in class and learn there itself.
I would say some of the subjects are really beneficial. I wouldn't comment on the others though.
Okay, no comment. That's a smart move. Okay. So, how about the education in Canada itself? How does it compare to the education that we see here? And I'm talking about purely from a degree perspective.
Sure. I think in Canada, there is a big difference, but I would be comparing a master's degree here compared to a undergrad back in India. So probably the measuring stick is not all right, but then I think in a master's degree over here, there's a lot of emphasis on research and doing your own work, coming up with your own projects rather than trying to just build something which has already been done. So there's a lot of work which you have to put in. It's like a if the semester starts till the end of the semester, you're completely within the subject, trying to research new methodologies, coming up with your own research plan and such. But during undergrad, I think it's very much more structured. You have like internals at regular intervals, and you have to submit, say, a project or an assignment. So it's a lot more structured over there. Here, it's a lot of emphasis on what you can do and what you can give back to the computer science society. So you will have to put in a lot of hard work compared to back in India.
So, does this apply for the master's program as well? Do you know how the master's program works in India as opposed to this? So, you mentioned a lot of, from what I understood, it's a lot more practical oriented than what we are used to, at least.
Sure.
We
I would say it's a lot of depth, and also a lot of practical oriented applied research from what I see around. And in India, I'm not sure how it compares to masters abroad, but I'm pretty sure even in India, the MTech programs have like internships and others where you go out to the industry and apply these concepts more. And also, like, the depth obviously needs to be there. For example, if you're specializing in, say, data science, then you need to deep dive just into data science, and not have to worry about too much on the, say, operating systems or networking side of things. In undergrad, obviously we can't do that, and we need to have a broader base so that we can enter any industry we choose.
So it sounds like if you do a master's, it's a great scope to learn your subject of interest in a deep manner, in a
Oh,
deep sense,
definitely. Yeah,
right?
I think masters is hectic, not like it's not like very easy or anything. But if you do put in the hard work, then it's very rewarding. You and at the end of the day, you don't feel that you have done work for nothing. You feel proud of the work you have done. So yeah, you can learn a lot if you're doing a masters for sure.
So you speak about a more practical approach, right?
Yeah.
So I know for sure that at our level, at a BE level, at SJC, most of us are not at that level. I mean, most of us, for in case an internals comes up, we are scrambling for notes. We try to study those notes. We study the important diagrams, and we
Yeah.
go and write the test. So from what I hear and from what you said just now, that is not the case, right? So, how hard was it for you to adjust to the system of education there?
Yeah, sure. I think the initial days were not hard. It was a bit different. Like once you come into a new country, you're still settling in, and your classes start, and the classes are completely different, and the style of teaching is different. The style of assignments or projects they're giving you is different. So initial days are a bit hard, but I think one thing we should give credit to SJC is that the 5 event system really helps. I think you would have heard it from our professors already a ton of times that the 5 event system does help because it keeps you on your toes. It prepares you well for working throughout the semester, so you don't feel very much off put when you work through the semester here. You still feel that okay, I'm just putting in work as I used to say put in during undergrad. But yeah, it's different in the sense that you just can't read notes and get away with it. You'll have to put in a real effort. That's for sure.
So you say the 5 events are worth it, huh? So it's nice to hear that, especially from our
It
student
is. It is.
perspective,
It is worth it.
because right now it is not really seeming like a great thing. So I'm glad to hear that at the end it does actually pay dividends.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in general, did you want to go to Canada itself, or did you have your options open, like UK, Australia, or did you even try for India? Did you write GATE?
No, so Gate was not something on my mind. I always wanted to move abroad for my master's degree. I applied only to US universities and Canadian universities. And once I got into the University of Toronto, it being like one of the top universities for computer science, I decided to move to Canada. And also I heard when I was moving about some of the visa issues back in US, so Canada felt like a better option at that time, and yeah, that's how I chose Canada over the US.
So it was a conscious. Did you have another option in the US itself, or were
Yeah,
you always like, okay, Canada? If I get into Canada, it'd be better than going to the US.
I would say it was not really about like US or Canada when I was applying. It was really about the university. So
Okay, okay.
yeah, like because when you look at the universities, what they specialize in and such things, University of Toronto is like considered the holy grail for deep learning, and most of the advancements in the machine learning world have come from here. So that was a more deciding factor. So I would say like look at the universities rather than just the country.
So at least over here, again, while I'm comparing the process to me choosing my BE college at least. So one of the main things we looked at was placements, right? So I
Yeah,
see SJC has some of the top companies coming here. I
right.
didn't really pay attention to the quality of teachers and the research going on. So that from what you said, it looks like there is a lot more to it than just looking at placements and stuff.
For
So
sure.
what were the parameters on which you chose your university?
Sure. I think that placement theory doesn't work in any of the Western universities because in the universities, at least in like towards the west, like UK, Canada, or the others you mentioned, there is no concept of placements, right? So you need to go find a job on yourself. You need to apply for jobs, and you need to attend career fairs. So that whole, points which you get just for placement is not valid over here. So when I was choosing my university, I think my top, two or three considerations were, one was obviously the effective research that was coming out of it, and the professors that were teaching at the university, and what I can learn through my masters. So that was like the, I would say you can convert that into ranking. So one was the ranking of the university. The other one was
Okay.
previous, like obviously the cost. So what will be my return on investment if I put in, say, X amount of money? Will I be, able to pay back that amount, and in a certain amount of
Yeah, yeah, makes
time?
sense.
So that is a big factor as well. And the third factor, obviously, you can consider something like country visa rules, the opportunities which you get in that region. So location and region wise, that plays a major role. And yeah, I think these three were the major factors I considered when I was applying.
Okay, so that makes sense. So you mentioned one thing, right? You mentioned cost.
Hmm.
So I know for sure that like many people kind of are very eager to study abroad, and
Yeah.
then they see the cost, especially in the US,
Hmm.
and they kind of they take a step back and they're like, and you hear stories of people kind of constantly having to pay their student loans and having that as a having that difficulty.
Yeah.
So, what are your comments on this? Is this something that you have to consider, especially the cost? Is this worth it? How do you make it a worthy investment? Especially since getting a job there does not seem as easy as it might be here, since companies come on campus.
Sure. I think that's a very important factor to consider, because especially given a pandemic situation like this, you don't want to be in debt, and you don't want to, keep working and for a lower salary and giving back everything to your, student loan. So I think very important factor. And I would say, as I said, a return on investment is what I would consider, rather than just like the cost to the program. For example, if CMU has a program which costs you, say, 70 lakhs in Indian rupees, I would still say like it might be worth it, because it is a top
Okay.
university, and you can recover that money in a relatively short amount of time. So depending on the university, if it is giving you the opportunities you're looking for, and if it is worth it, then I would say spending money is not a problem. But I wouldn't say, like, I wouldn't advise anyone to spend money, a lot of money on universities which you feel yourself that it's not worth it. So
So, if I understand correctly, university ranking again, like you had mentioned at that previously in our conversation,
mhm.
even that has a very important. That's
Yeah.
an important parameter while thinking about whether it's worth it or not.
Yeah, surely.
Yeah.
Like, look at the each university will have something called like a record of their alumni, where if they're, graduating within what amount of time have they found full-time work, what is the average salary they have, where are those people located right now. So if most of the people are located in the same city or in the same province, and if they're earning well enough, also if they're getting a job within, say, 3 months of graduation, then I would say it's still a good investment, even if ranking is not so high. For example, say some university in California might be a great investment if you're looking just for jobs, and not the quality of the professors or research itself.
Ah, okay. So that makes sense. So also getting a job in this current situation, especially because especially in the US, we
Mhm.
see policies are becoming more and more strict.
Yeah.
Handing out visas is becoming more strict under the Trump administration.
Right.
The economy is not doing so well, especially now. So especially, and I know that at least we spoke about return on investment, right? Many people kind of dream of working there for a couple of years, at least to pay off student loans, get some work experience there.
Right.
So, in this situation, in this Corona situation, and the situation in the US, would you still say, would you still hold on to your opinion about, yeah, about how worthy it is to study in a US, particularly US university?
I wouldn't like be the best person to talk about a US university, because whatever I would be saying is just learned from my friends south of the border in the US. So I think right now the scenario is still improving. I wouldn't say it's at a all-time low. It is slowly but steadily improving. So I think at the end of the day, if you're looking to come in next year, things should be hopefully better, and your investment should pay off in the US. However, if you talk about the Canadian side of things, I would say that Canadian universities in general are a much safer option if you're looking for a long-term goal, because you don't have to worry about visas and other stuff. And probably the only letdown is the pay might be a bit less compared to the US, but the fees of the university and the long-term visa problems, so all those are reduced stress for you.
So it sounds like right now, though the situation is improving in the US,
Yeah.
Canada, if you can get a university in Canada, it might be a safer bet.
Yeah,
So the job market has not collapsed there. It's still doing okay.
I wouldn't say it's collapsed completely. It's just that job market works in terms of supply and demand, right? So there's a lot of supply now because a lot of people graduated, say, this year, and they haven't still found jobs. But the demand is still the same. I would say the demand is you know I would say more or less steady, if not reduced. But then the supply has just gone too much above the demand, because in the last, say, 6 months, 7 months, they had frozen the hiring process. So right now, that's the problem with the job market. But hopefully, it will recover soon.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So before even you went to your masters, you had worked in Western Digital, right?
Yeah.
So what was your initial role there? You interned there, then you went to a full-time offer, right? Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So like during my
So
internship, I was
what?
sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah. Please go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So like during my internship, it was a role of firmware validation. So it was more on the testing side for my internship. So I that was not something I enjoyed a lot. So I had a conversation with the HR, and they shifted my team to software development during my full-time role. So during my internship, I was in the firmware validation team, and during my full-time role, I was in a team called software tools. So we used to develop software for internal customers within Western Digital, to validate their software and the firmware which they're creating. So yeah, there was a switch from my internship to a full-time role.
So you spoke about talking to the HR and getting your team switched, right?
Right.
So what was it, was it as easy as it sounds? Like, just have a conversation with your HR and they'll change your team.
Not at all, not at all. Like there are a lot of things into play. Obviously, the person who has given his time for 6 months and let you be an intern with his team, he wouldn't be too pleased with your decision to switch teams just after your internship. And also, there needs to be an opening, or a manager who is ready to take you into his team for full time. So a lot of things need to work out well, and probably HR is like the top part of the iceberg what we see, but there is a lot going on below that. And if everything works out well, which did for me, thankfully, and you can switch teams after your internship.
So continuing on to the same topic,
Mhm.
so things worked out really well for you, but there are many people right now, especially in fourth year who see a good company with a good package, and they think, okay, I want to join this company, but the role that they offer is not ideal. For example, quality analysis. I
Right.
mean, there is nothing against quality analysis, but if it's not what you want,
Right.
should you still try to get that job and try to change your role?
Yeah, I
Would
think this is something like of a gamble if you're taking, I would say, because yeah, as you said, it's very difficult to choose between a great package and a great role, but it depends on person to person. If you're okay with, say, doing QA, and if you're okay with doing software development, it definitely makes sense for you to go with a higher package, and then try to see what roles are there within the team, talk to your manager as such. But you should always go in with the mindset that the switch won't happen, right? Because you should be prepared that switch won't happen, and I'll still stay as a QA and I'll be happy. But if you are thinking that the switch will definitely happen and I'll join as a QA and switch to software development, it is a gamble which you're playing. So it's more like, after CET, I tell a person, okay, you can join, say, XYZ department, and after first year you will definitely have a switch to computer science. There is a lot of permutations and combinations happening there. So that's, if you are willing to take that gamble, then the package is worth it. But if you're not, then I would say stick to the role.
So basically, if you want to take that bangle, you should not regret. If you were to stay in that role permanently, you should not have any regrets then.
Yeah, definitely. Like you should decide first that you won't be regretting the decision later. That you will be happy with the role, as well as the higher pay which you are getting. So that's one thing you should be very clear before accepting any offer.
Okay. So what about changing your company itself? Okay, so let's say things did not work out for you, and you still want a software developer role. Could
Mhm.
you apply to other companies who are offering that job position, and would that work out?
Yeah,
Or is
definitely.
this something much harder
I
than
think
changing within?
I think it becomes harder and harder once the time passes, right? Say after your internship, soon after your internship, if you don't have any experience, and if you try for companies with the software developer position, it's a higher chance of you getting in. But say I would say, like, probably 2 or 3 years into your work experience, if you have lost touch with software development and have done a lot of QA work, then it becomes harder for you to make a complete switch to software engineering from QA. It's the same in any kind of switch, I feel. So yeah, like
Okay.
it's a lot easier if you are if you're still inexperienced and people see you as someone they can train and mold into a software developer easily.
Okay. So you also mentioned that you, from the second year itself, you had interest in MLAI, right? So were you not aiming for these kinds of roles as soon as you came out of BE, or is that not even possible?
Uh, I would say, like, in India, it is a bit difficult because I did try applying online to some of the AI and data scientist roles, but definitely a lot harder probably in India, because they expect you to have some kind of experience in the field itself. And what I saw from my role in Western Digital, they do have such kinds of data scientist, machine learning engineer roles, but they usually do that as a switch between a software developer. For example, if a person is really good at something and a new project comes in which requires some bit of data science or a bit of data engineering involved in it, then the manager would say, okay, this is a new project, does anyone want to take up and learn new technologies? So that is when you can switch and slowly move across to the machine learning and data science side of things. And if you want to switch later on, then it's a lot easier because you have already done. But as a fresher, I would say it's still very difficult in India to get into a data scientist role as a fresher.
Okay. So it sounds like, again, once you enter a company, you can switch roles, that kind of thing, can try to enter that data science field. But as a fresher, a job, a prospect is quite difficult. to get a job offer in ML, right?
From what I see, it's it's quite difficult, and I think for a data scientist role, again, probably because the number of jobs is limited, and there are a lot of people applying for the same job. So it's people usually prefer someone who has a bit of experience rather than someone just coming out of university, I guess.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. So, one more thing, how different is the work life as compared to student life in terms of how hectic it is, how you deal with managers?
Mhm.
Can you give us some insight on that, the work
Sure.
life?
Yeah, sure. So I think work life is good in some places, and your student life is or your master's life is good in some moments, because say in a master's degree, when you're doing something, you have a lot of flexibility. Like you can do things your own way, and present things in your own way. But during work, it is more restricted. It's like a lot of process involved in it. And the hectic wise, I think it really depends on what course you're doing, and also what company you're working at. For example, like Western Digital, I think had very good work life balance. I didn't usually go back home and again start working or anything like that. It was, say, if I used to work 10 to 6, it was fixed to 10 to 6. So that's one great thing, I would say, if you're into a good company. But say if you're in a master's degree, there's no weekend, there's no weekday, right? You need to work as much as you can to put in your best effort, and learn as much as you can. So uh, i would say I would say in terms of flexibility, masters is a good thing. But in terms of work life, and just doing your work and keeping your work and personal life separate, a work experience is better than that.
Okay. So, how important are your soft skills in the work environment? Like, your communication and things like that.
hmm I think it's like one of the most underrated skills, because uh, if you are able to talk to people, network with them, ask them the right questions, learn from them, you can go a long way, uh, even though you might lack a bit in your technical side of things. Like, there is always room to learn. But cultivating this habit is really overlooked sometimes. I think having those conversations, and keeping the communication going and learning from others is really important. And I think soft skills also plays a big role. For example, if you want to, say, switch teams or switch projects or anything like that, or if you are uncomfortable with your work-life balance and you want to have a one-on-one conversation with your manager, all these places, I think your soft skills play a great role, and it should never be overlooked, in my opinion.
So, yeah, I asked because in at least engineering life, it's not really stressed upon. Like you said, it's quite underrated.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
is there any way as we can improve our soft skills as of now?
I
Like,
think
to a it can be that we can be respected in the work environment and be heard.
Sure. I think one thing you can do is attend some kind of mock interviews, or learn how to speak to people. Say, network with people on LinkedIn, connect with them, have a conversation about, say, what's happening in their industry, how you can learn from them, and get suggestions from others. Just reaching out and talking to people itself helps you a lot in understanding how things are in the industry, and how you can maneuver you know into the industry. So just reaching out to people, and not having the stigma of what people think about you, that itself is a great thing to have. Say, for example, someone comes to give a webinar at SGCE. If you're scared to go and talk to him and ask some of your questions, then you are missing out on an opportunity to learn from him or her. So I would say just reaching out to people is a great way to start with your soft skills.
So basically, reaching out and getting over that initial nervousness, that
Yeah,
sounds like a great place to start.
surely.
So you also spoke about talking with your managers and your seniors in work. So
Mhm.
so you can always, I guess, rely on them to help you out if you're stuck, right? Or is it something like it's not? It's kind of like, I mean, no one's going to say no, I guess. But then, is it kind of frowned upon? Like, how easy is it to seek help if you're stuck or something
I
in
think
the work?
what really matters is that you try to solve the problem on your own before going to your senior or your manager. If you're going to your say team lead every day and asking them, okay, how do I do this or how do I do that, then obviously the person will be irritated and not feel so comfortable teaching you every day. But then if you put in your own effort, say if you're given a task and you go online, you try coding a bit, if you get stuck somewhere, try to Google more, work on it for a day or two, and if you have the conversation after that, tell your manager or your senior that, hey, I tried out these 10 solutions but I don't think they seem to be working. Do you think you can help me out? Then I'm definitely sure that they will help you out.
So initiative is important, rather. So you can't just go to them for every little problem that you have.
Yeah, I think
So
like being an independent individual contributor is as important as being a team player, because I think we hear a lot in these HR rounds and other places that you need to be a team player, but individual contribution is as important as that. Putting in your own effort and showing the team that you can actually contribute and be of value. That's important as well, along with teamwork.
yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so you always spoke about learning, right? A lot of that a theme has in this podcast has been about learning and interacting with your peers. So how important is it to keep learning even when you enter the industry? Because I know that, like, many people also feel that once you get a job, it's done.
Mhm.
Goodbye learning, goodbye everything. You just get your salary and move on. So can you speak about this also?
Yeah, I think like a couple of things which everyone should keep in mind is that learning never ends, and also there is not everything is black and white in life. Like if you get a great job, it's not the end of your career. It's not like you wouldn't have to work hard for moving ahead in your career. And also if you don't do well in some field, it's not like it's the end of your career. You can still learn and get into a great place. So I think learning never stops. If I would say like as and when I learn more things, I always feel that I'm missing out on still like larger things. So I think that eagerness and you know humility, really, like that you still have a lot of things to learn, is really important. And to progress in your life, in your job, I think you need to keep learning. And there is there is nothing like I'm pretty sure everyone's parents would have told that do well in your 10th grade and it's the end, you will be happily forever.
Exactly,
Do
exactly.
12th grade and you're happily forever. There is no happily forever. There is still, there is like the happy journey. There is no forever, and there is no point in which you will say that, oh, I can stop working now. It's just the journey which you need to enjoy.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I can totally relate to that parents and relatives thing.
Right.
After second PUC, I thought it'd be all over engineering. You see your seniors and all having fun, and you think, okay, this is it. There's nothing more after second PUC.
No.
And yeah,
I
reality is quite different.
Yeah, I think it gets easier as and when you progress in your career, because you learn a lot of things and you're a lot more experienced and you know how to handle things. But it's definitely not the end. You still keep learning and learning something new every day, but it gets easier and easier. So if that is anything to do with it, so yeah, keep learning.
Yeah, sounds good. So we have a question.
Mhm.
So is a data science scientist and data analysis the same thing?
Right. So data scientist and data analyst are not the same things. Data analyst is more towards the business side of things, I would say. Like, a data analyst is closer to a business analyst, where they usually analyze the data, visualize the data, show it to a audience, try to make some decision based on that. But there is not really any kind of modeling involved, so there is not a much of machine learning involved in this role. But in your data scientist role, there's a lot of machine learning involved. In some places there is deployment involved. So uh, data analysis is strictly restricted to, say, the business and data analysis side of things. But data scientist is a way broader topic, where you can be involved in a bit of data wrangling, or you can be involved in modeling, you can be involved in deployment. So it's a broader topic, and I think modeling part is what is the biggest difference between these two.
So, if I understand correctly, data analysts are not dealing with AI and ML and predictions and all that
Yes,
stuff.
yeah, you got that right. I think data analyst is more towards the business side, and data scientist is more on the machine learning and AI side of things.
Okay, makes sense. So, the second question is, sir, how did you enter Toronto College? So, I think the question is, if you could go into a little bit about the preparation and the process in general, it
Sure.
would be great.
Yeah, I think I was in like fifth semester when I first started preparing as such for GRE and for my masters. I went to a course in Mysore, a local coaching kind of a thing. But it didn't really help me a lot. I was like learning a bit, but not as much as I would. And I didn't give my GRE then. I waited and waited, and I thought that I would give it some time, but it pushed and pushed, and I finally gave it at the end of eighth semester, which when I thought that, okay, probably next year, after a year of uh, you know uh, my work experience, I'll go in. So that's when I gave my GRE, and I would still say that for GRE I prepared a lot on my own, and referred to online material. And I think it's advisable that you give it a try on your own, because I don't think it's so hard. Your math skills are definitely there, because you're in the science stream and in the engineering stream. The problem might be a bit with English. You need to learn a lot of vocabulary, and if you start that earlier in your engineering career, learning new things in the English side, it becomes a lot easier. And once I gave my GRE, I think I applied for some of the universities, and that process again, like, it requires you to write your statement of purpose. It requires you to connect with your professors and ask letters of recommendation from them. So all that process, I think, if you are in touch with your professors even after you graduate from the university, it helps. And if you get good scores on the GRE, if you have a good SOP, and yeah, I think like good grades is also something which is overlooked, but definitely helpful. And yeah, and at the end of the day, if your work and your projects, everything are at the level that the university expects you to be, you will get into university. And I think it's still, no one can say that I will definitely get into this university or I will not get into this university. So there is still uncertainty definitely when you apply. But if you cover all these bases well, I think you should get into at least one of the top, say, top 20, top 30 universities.
So then it's not like applying to an Indian university then. So here, if you get like a very good all India rank, you're almost guaranteed to get into the university of your choice. So what are the other factors that matter other than your GRE score?
I think one of the factors, is your projects, and say if you have done some research papers, that's one area which all universities definitely look at. And also, if you have work experience or internship experience, that definitely helps. And it's more about how you are a fit to the program rather than just having all the scores on the table. Even if you have a perfect GRE, but if the program doesn't feel that you're a good fit because your background isn't really aligned with what you're applying for, then they might still not be interested in giving you an admit. But if you have a background which suits their program, which fits their program really well, then it definitely helps. And your work experience, your projects, your CGPA, all these play a major role.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. So we have one more question. How important will ML become in the industries in the next decade?
Yeah, I think ML is here to stay, and definitely it's going to improve and do things which we didn't expect it to do, say, even 10 years before, because deep learning revolution itself started, say, in 2012, and just 8 years into the deep learning, machine learning uh, run, we have achieved so much more than what probably we thought we would achieve. And I think if you are looking at too many sci-fi movies, you would still think that artificial general intelligence is right around the corner and AI will take over the world. That's I think not going to happen anytime soon. But machine learning will be important an important tool, and it will assist humans in more ways than one. The job market will change a lot. For example, your cars will become driverless, and people need to start upskilling themselves. So that's a scenario which is definitely in the pipeline. But all industries, take any industry, semiconductor industry, healthcare, fintech, mining, all of the industries are already using machine learning. And whether we know it or not, they will be using machine learning in some way. And 10 years down the line, I think most of the decisions will be taken by machines. What I mean by decisions being taken is that using your data, using your previous history of records is what the decisions will be taken on. So but there will still be a lot of human control, and how people can program it, how people can tweak the machine learning algorithms. But definitely, it's here to stay, and learning machine learning um, will give you a great head start for the next 10 years, I would say.
So it looks like machine learning, even though it only started, like the revolution only started in 2012, it
Hmm.
has already made headroads into many other industries.
Yeah.
So it seems like a wise thing to at least have basic knowledge of machine learning.
Yeah, definitely, like having some basic knowledge. And it's still that many of the companies are still adopting machine learning. They haven't gone into full steam yet. Once that happens, I think many of us will be expected to know at least a bit of machine learning. So definitely a great thing to have in your resume.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it makes sense. So, do you have any regrets in your college life in general?
Not in general, I would say college was fun, and there was a lot to learn technically, and also in a non-technical way. Lot of life lessons to take from college life. Uh, but if you would say like regrets, then probably if I had someone tell me that to take my projects more seriously and go in depth and probably publish some research paper, then I think that I would have done that in a better way. And that's the only minor regret I think I would have had, because those things go a long way. It helps you in your masters, it helps you later on in your job. So that's the only probable minor regret I have.
So, if you had to give any advice to juniors, would it be something along the lines of take your projects more seriously or try to publish some research papers?
Yeah, definitely, I think that's one advice I try to give everyone, is that take your studies more seriously. I think, as you told, we tend to neglect it, thinking that notes we'll be able to score well in internals, not a thing to worry. But what you're learning and how much depth you know the subject in, that really matters. And that would be the advice which I would give my juniors as well.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, you spoke about college being fun, right? Do you have one particular memorable or fun moment that you'd like to share?
I think like the class trips which we had were really fun. Our class representative was a really active person, and he used to take us to, organize class trips every semester. So I think that was that was a great thing. A retreat which we used to have almost every semester, and it was great fun for us to get together as a class one day, dance in the bus and all sort of things. So that was the fun memories of class trips, I think, which I had.
Yeah, that sounds good, especially in this Corona situation. Hearing about that sounds so nice.
Right.
So, you also spoke about ML jobs and how it might become the future, right? So
Mhm.
now you see that many other people are also realizing this and going into masters in ML and all.
Mhm.
So, do you have a feeling that it might become saturated because there are so many people that are going into this field now?
I think the jobs won't be saturated. It will become more segregated. What I mean is, say for now, there is just a data scientist role, which will involve the initial, say, data wrangling, data analysis part, and also it will have some experimentation in it, and it will have modeling. It will also have a bit of deployment. But later on, as and when the industry settles down, all these jobs will become separate jobs. For example, a machine learning engineer will be more involved on the deployment and productionizing side of things. Say a data scientist will be more involved in the experimentation part and modeling part. Data analyst will be more focused only on the data analysis side of things. So it will be more segregated, and I don't think it'll saturate anytime soon. Not at least in the next 5 to 10 years. And there's a valid point as to this question, that there are a lot of people getting into the field. What I see here is that even people who are in, say, fields like mechanical engineering or say chemical engineering, they are also, like, applying data science in their work, trying to compete for the same jobs. So the competition definitely is increasing, but I think it will be in such a way that the once the jobs start getting segregated, there'll be a lot more jobs than there are now. So I don't see the market saturating as such, but competition will keep on increasing, and it's good if you start early and have a head start with the whole machine learning, scenario.
So yeah, the key is like a head start. Sounds like
Yeah.
what you need now. So also, at least in the near future, I don't think that from what you said, ML will become totally saturated. So if anything, after at least a decade, 2 decades or so.
Yeah, I think, like, as I told, most companies are still in the transition. Not everyone have already applied ML in their work already. They are still exploring technologies and things. So once that settles down, there will be more jobs, and I think there will be a lot of segregation of jobs, and what you want to work on will become more clear.
Okay. So one last thing. So we have a couple rapid fire questions that we'd like to ask you.
Okay.
Just the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
So shall I start?
Yeah, sure.
So okay, Windows or Linux,
Windows.
LinkedIn or Instagram,
LinkedIn.
Netflix or Amazon Prime,
Netflix.
UG life or PG life,
PG life.
Indian food or Canadian food.
Indian food.
Good. JCNA or election,
Oh man, election.
Nescafe or Yampa?
Nescafe.
Kanan Bakery or Downs?
Kanan Bakery.
Would you rather have an assignment or test or event?
Assignment.
Okay, okay. So yeah, so that is it for this time. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for giving your time for us this evening.
Yeah.
Uh, it was really informative and great. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you for having me on the podcast, and it was really fun to go down the memory line and pick up facts which I think even I had forgotten. So it is great to be on the show, and I hope this was of help to all the listeners. And if the listeners have anything in particular, say for machine learning or any such questions, I would be happy to answer them on LinkedIn. So feel free to get connected and have a great night.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.